All right, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I am Buzzy's head of ecosystem, and I'm going to be your host today. A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all across the world. It is a pleasure, as always, to have such a diverse audience coming from all different countries. Here in beautiful Sydney, Australia, it is morning time for us, but whether it's day or night where you are, we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. In this session, we have a lot of exciting things to show you. But just before we get into the thick of it, I would like to give you a quick introduction of on what Buzzy is for those of you who are discovering the platform for the first time. So if you're here today, chances are you or someone you know might have an idea for an app or a website. And as you may know, it takes a lot of time, money, and resources to build one. If you think of it as a mountain, you are now at the base of the mountain, and your goal is to reach the top. So deploy your application or website as quickly and effectively as possible. Depending on the size of your project, your skills, your experience, and the technology available, that may make your climb more or less challenging. Now, in that situation, what can Buzzy do for you? So it can help you get part of the way there, can bring you closer to the top. It might not handle every single detail that you have in mind, so you might have to do some little work, but it will for sure get you off the ground fast and save you big time and money. Now, how can Buzzy do that? Well, at its core, Buzzy is a no-code platform that allows you to create mobile or web-based applications without coding. And that already simplifies the app creation process heaps and also open the gates for non-technical people. So you don't have to be a programmer to be able to create something functional. But that's not all. Now, using artificial intelligence, Buzzy can make it even easier to come up with a minimum viable product, and all you need is a couple minutes. What that means for you is that you can save time and money from the start and actually spend it on what matters. So I see a question coming, how does it all work exactly? Well, I think I'll leave it to our guest speakers to explain and show you. So without further ado, let's welcome our fantastic guest for today. To talk to you in this session, we have two members of the Buzzy team. We will first hear from Adam Ginsburg, CEO and founder of Buzzy. Adam will be showing us a new feature that our team has been working on and have been very excited about. And that feature will hopefully make it easier for you to edit and customize your application just with an instruction. So very exciting stuff. And he will also introduce us to the new Buzzy Assistant. So welcome, Adam. Say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Awesome. And then in the second part, you will hear from Dave Tanner. Dave is the head of UX at Buzzy and our in-house Figma expert. He will give us a preview of the upcoming theming feature, and will also show us a few different ways we can quickly change the look and feel of a Buzzy app in Figma. Welcome, Dave. Hey.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. One last thing before we get into it. Ask us questions. So if anything piques your interest during the presentations today, or you would like to ask something to Dave or Adam or myself, please send us a question using the Q&A function. So all you need to do is go to the bottom right of your screen. There should be those two little shapes. Click on that. That will open the activities panel, and then just find the Q&A in there, and you can type in your questions. We'll be answering questions probably at the end of the session, or if you have time throughout. So don't be shy, send us your questions. Let's welcome our first guest speaker, Adam Ginsburg, founder and CEO of Buzzy. Stage is all yours, Adam.
Thanks, Steph. I'll share my screen. And thanks everybody for your time and your support on that. Really stoked you could join us today. And we want to try keep these webinars going. And we don't, at the moment, I think it was probably 5-6 weeks since our last one, and we might do them more regularly. It would be good to get feedback from you. You'll get a link at the end that will give you an opportunity to put some feedback into our Discord. We'd love to, what works, what's good, what you'd like to find out about, so we can share that with you. So for the purpose of this demo, I want to show you some cool stuff. This is about to be released. It's not released yet. In the last webinar, we showed you how easy it is to be able to create an application from a prompt. So I'm going to go through this quickly. So I'm going to enter my own prompt, and I'm going to give you a just a quick look. So we're going to create a simple recipe app that allows users to read recipes, some information about what we want to capture. I'll talk a bit about, how, for those of you new to the platform, how prompt engineering is so important. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to get it to create this app, and I'll tell you what's happening behind the scenes. The first thing we're doing is we're actually testing with the new ChatGPT 4 Turbo over here. And let me just click the link in my email. Just give me one sec. In my overzealous clearing my desktop, I actually shut down my email client. So I just need to do that. Here we go. I'm going to click the link in my email, and then I'm going to share this tab. Hopefully you're seeing that. And we're going to start this. Now, by the way, the estimate says 10 minutes. Currently, we need to fix that. Currently, we're experiencing about 1.5 minutes to get through the entire process. So that's been a massive improvement that we've seen from moving up to the new ChatGPT 4 Turbo. We plan to get that into production as soon as possible. It might even be today or tomorrow, because we can leverage that faster AI engine at the back end, as well as it's actually cheaper as well to run, which is great news from the OpenAI team. So that's one change that's happening under the covers. So behind the scenes, we're just doing the regular stuff that you can do manually, or when you went through the wizard previously, where we create a brief, the data model, then we'll generate from that all your screen definitions and then some sample content. So you can see over there, it's going through now, and it's gone through all those stages, and now it's building the screens and components. This is the stage that, depending on the complexity of your application, takes the longest. So just bear with it as it goes through that process. I always sort of go, I speak to a lot of people and find out about, what sort of feedback, and they said, I don't care if it takes 30 minutes or 12 hours. Just tell me what it is. This is so much faster than doing. So there we go. We actually finished that. And I'm going to click Let's Go. So this is where you're going to see some of our first changes that we've made. So here is this first recipe app. We'll just go into it. It's a pretty simple one, and we just use that as a very simple. So you can go into a recipe, and that's it, and so on. Obviously, it's got some information there, and I can change that. So a very simple application. Now, the new capability that we're adding is this chat feature on the right-hand side. Our goal is to help you, as Steph talked about, get as close to the top of the mountain as possible, and using AI to accelerate you there. Now, you can always get into the configuration of the application, and you can pull this into Figma, and you get ultimate control of the UX, UI design at the nitty-gritty level, which is incredibly faster than actually going and developing the code. And Dave will take you through some of that a bit later. But we wanted to make it super easy for you to make high-level changes. And this is just the first example of this. So what I'm going to do is, this recipe app is pretty cool, but what about if we want to share this recipe application with some of our, my friends, and I want to allow users to leave reviews on that application. So I'm going to send that back to Buzzy, and it's going to go through those steps. It's actually it's told me here that it understands what we're doing. So it says that so it's just reaffirming the instructions that we've given it. It's then going to update the brief, and then from there it's going to go through and update the data model, update the screens, and then publish the new app. Now, there's a number of takeaways that I'd like people to get over here. Is that this interactive way of prompting the AI or Buzzy to be able to change your application with the prompt is something that we are going to be focusing on. We had some of this basic capability within our Figma plugin already, but this takes it to a whole new level. Coming down the road will give you much more granular control over those items that you can then change either manually or using the AI to do that. That's down at the screen or the field level and so on, on the screen. So we've got a new UI planned for designing an application. One of the things that we've learned over the last few months is that most of our users do not have Figma skills. And to try and get around that barrier is that we want to use the AI to be able to generate more and more of that capability without having to get into the nitty gritty of Figma, which gives you ultimate control how something. So there we can go. We can see that literally took probably less than a couple of minutes to generate the new version. And over here, let's have a look at a recipe. We now have the ability to review, and that's like, again, this is a full working application. The database and everything is, working behind the scenes. That you can see over here. So then we put that new review in, it's updated the database and so on. So this is like an insanely amazing new capability that we're adding into the Buzzy workspace. That's going to give you the ability to make those changes very, very quickly, and again, get you closer and closer to the top of the mountain without having to do any coding. So you can already, you could get it to do a number of different things. You could add or remove fields, using a prompt. Now, to get back into the application, you can always go through and manage the application. You can get into the data model. You can get into the design. Dave's going to talk about this, of how you can generate a Figma file. He's going to start at the point that you've already generated the Figma file. In our last webinar, we showed how you could do this. So if you go into the Figma plugin, you could pull this application. It will generate, depending on the complexity of the app, 30, 40, 50, 100 screens with all their components using a UI kit that's all completely customizable within Figma. So that's really the first new feature that I wanted to give you a preview of. We plan to release this very, very soon. We're going through final testing now, and again, we'll do things incrementally. So we'll give you the starting point. There are going to be some capabilities that are not there, and we'll just keep on getting, adding more feature and function that's going to get you closer to that finished application. So one of the things that we've got planned very soon is the theme builder. So Dave's going to talk about how you can do that in Figma, but you'll be able to change things like the look and feel and that from this AI chat interface. So you'll be able to say, hey, give me a different look and feel, or change this or change that. And then you'll be able to drill down and get into the specific screen level and component level stuff as we go further down the road. So I am so excited about this functionality. It's really helping us deliver on that dream. That's helping you create applications more easily, faster, and obviously more cost effectively. Now, as part of that, I wanted to show you, this is very, very new, and it's off the back of, this is not really a feature that we've developed. This is a feature that OpenAI have developed, which is helping us build intelligent assistants or AI assistants that understand about Buzzy. Now, there is a link to this that you'll get in the chat, and Steph will send out an email afterwards that will give you a link to it. This is in preview mode, but the types of things that you can do with the assistant is you can ask it a bunch of questions. Now, we've started to train it up in helping you do things. So we get a lot of questions of, how do I do this? How do I better prompt things? And again, this is just a chat GPT interface into the Buzzy Assistant, which has that additional domain knowledge of everything about Buzzy. So, if somebody's got a question, go and have a play with this. I have put we put a link in that additional information to our Discord. I'd love to know what questions you want the Buzzy Assistant to help you with. I'd love to know if there is a question over there that something doesn't work, just give us as much feedback as possible, and we'll take the effort to try and improve this to give you that little bit of extra help as you build in your application. At the moment, the Buzzy Assistant is separate to the chat interface that I showed you previously. We may look at trying to merge those two things together, but if you think of you know, the Buzzy Assistant is just trying to help you get to that next level, you know, as an alternative to calling our support, and that gives you that instant response. So hopefully this is going to be a huge help, and we'll continue to invest. We haven't made this public yet, but there is a link that you can get to if you've got a ChatGPT account. I understand that you should be able to get that. So anybody should be able to get to it via that link. So that's probably it for me, for my side of it. Again, just summarizing, the new chat assistant or the Buzzy AI assistant within the Buzzy workspace is there that you can now chat with and make changes to your application on the fly. And that's going to be an incredible help, and just, as we talked about before, help you get closer to the top of the mountain. The Buzzy Assistant is sitting on the side to try and help you get to that next point. If you're new to Buzzy, you don't have a question, it will do things like it will deflect to the documentation. Sometimes it will try and give you an answer. It's definitely not perfect yet. It'll even go through and say, you know, if you need to find help, go to the Buzzy Marketplace. You know, we've also got a Buzzy coaching service through one of our partners, Form. You know, go and use those offerings as well to help you build your application and do things cost effectively. So again, very excited. I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll get to some Q&A afterwards, but thanks for taking the time to watch that.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. That was a really exciting demo, and I'm sure everyone is looking forward for it to be you know, released, and so that people can try it. But yeah, you mentioned definitely this is the first step, and then you can start editing your app directly, you know, from the preview screen. But there's also a lot of things you can do if you have the skills. And so that's what Dave is going to show you now. I'll hand it over to you, Dave. Feel free to start sharing your screen. But yeah, she's going to show you how you can modify the look and feel. If you have any questions for Adam, as he mentioned, make sure to pop them in the Q&A section. So bottom right of your screen, the three little shape icon at the bottom, that's the activity panel, and then just send us your question. We'll answer them at the end. But yeah, over to you, Dave.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm basically going to take over from where Adam left off. He went and created a recipe app via the website and the wizard. That generates your app, puts it into the Buzzy workspace, and from there you can go and edit it. So I've done the same sort of thing. I've created a recipe app. This is what you get in the Buzzy workspace when the AI builds your app. Mine's called Savory Scribe. The AI gave it that name. It's actually not bad. So you can see that this was the prompt I used, then the brief that got generated. I have some data in this app. What you can then do from the Buzzy workspace, once your app's been built, is you can go to Figma to edit your app interface. And what Buzzy does is it takes your app's screens and components, creates them or generates them in Figma as Figma layers, objects, design objects, and so on. You can edit them there. You use the Buzzy plugin to make changes to things like field definitions and values and data structures and so on, and republish your app directly from Figma. And this is a live app. It's a two-way process. So you can go from the workspace to Figma, make changes, and from Figma directly republish. So this is the app that, also to mention, to bring this into Figma, the earlier seminar, in the earlier previous webinar we did covers that. So you can go and check that out. This is assuming I've already done this. So I've got this file open in Figma. Oh, sorry, I've clicked the link, but I've actually got it open in Figma Desktop. So this is a preview of the new toolkit that Buzzy uses. So when you open the app in Figma, you'll open it in a Buzzy toolkit, which contains all the building blocks that the AI has used to generate your app. So this is a preview of the new one we're about to release, where we're introducing some new features, including theming. So I'll run you through that. I'll jump into, this is the initial app that I created with AI, and this is it rendering in Figma. So there's all my screens, all the items. It uses Figma components and instances. So if you're new to Figma, don't worry, you can learn it or get an expert to help you. What this looks like, I can go and look at the app. So this is, again, this is similar to what Adam generated. This is the version I created using the new templates. So it's got a dark look and feel. Oh, another new feature that the new toolkit has is it's responsive out of the box. So you'll note that grid flows, resizes, and wraps. Figma recently introduced wrapping and minimum and maximum widths to auto layouts, which are a type of Figma frame. That lets us do this stuff out of the box without having to do it via the Buzzy plugin and add it after the fact. So this becomes a lot simpler. So I'll run you through this, how this works as well. So here's my app as it was generated. Again, as Steph mentioned, this is created by AI. It's not the final app. There's things I want to fix about this. There's things I want to edit. So what I've done is I've copied this app in Figma and I've made some tweaks to a second version of this. So I'll run you through some of the tweaks I've made and I'll show you how to do some additional tweaks. But the big thing that we can do straight out of the box, this is still the original app, we can retheme it. I'm using a dark look and feel. So if we dive into a recipe, it's using pale text, dark background, and so on. I can change that straight away. Figma's introduced a new thing called variables. We can use those to apply themes. So if you look at your Figma canvas here, you can see there's a little theme drop down up here. This has been created by us. It's part of the Buzzy toolkit. So I can just toggle that to the light theme. Those variables get applied to our designs on the fly. And you'll notice my whole app, all the design elements just changed to a light theme. If I want to republish this, you need to run the Buzzy plugin. So where you find that is there's a little resources tab in Figma. Click on that. You can find components and widgets and so on. Go to the plugin section, search for Buzzy, and there it is. So I've got it running and it's hooked up. So I'll start the plugin. Now this, you'll notice the same things I saw in the workspace, the brief, the data model, there's my fields, and so on. That information is available in the plugin as well. So it's in the workspace and we've mirrored it in the Buzzy plugin. Another thing to note is you don't actually need to start from the AI and the workspace. If you've got your own design and you're using an existing design system, you can create your app interface in Figma, open the Buzzy plugin, and with the design tab, you can start marking things up. So you can select a screen, you can define it as a screen and so on. And this is now adding Buzzy code to your Figma file directly. So you can use your own design, create an app from scratch, design it, and then mark it up and then publish it. So there's two ways of doing this. If you've got your own design, Buzzy was designed initially to handle that anyway. So that's what the plugin's great at. I've switched the theme on this. I can go to the Publish tab, and this has already been published to my app. So if I click Update App,
Hey, Dave, I might just add while that's updating. So what you're seeing over here is the base building blocks that are available in Figma in this new template that we've provided, or in this new UI kit, and how that integrates with Buzzy. What I mentioned before in terms of what we'll be providing into the AI is so you can do all these things that Dave's going to show you straight from the AI chat. So obviously the first point is that if you do have Figma skills, and is to put that building block in place over there for you, and then we'll add in the AI capability afterwards. So we'll just keep climbing up, towards the top of the mountain for you, so you'll be able to do more and more with the AI.
All right, so that updated my app, and as Adam mentioned, this is a live app. There's this is real data. There are working reviews. I can add a new review here if I can type, give a rating, submit. This is a working live app. We've just changed the design on the fly with basically one drop-down selection and a republish. That's it. So this is a start. I've managed to change the theme with what's ready out of the box from Buzzy, which is a dark and a light mode. I want to make more changes. So as I mentioned, I've sort of duplicated this app. So I've got a modified version, and I will open this. I can open it from the workspace. So this is being published. And what I've done in this version is I've tweaked the design. I've modified some things. For instance, I've put a search in the bottom toolbar. I've put a logo on the home screen. I've taken the description out of the menu items on the home page, but left them in. For instance, sorry, if I jump into the recipes menu. So here I am rendering more information. I changed the badges and so on. So these are all little design tweaks I've made on the fly, and that took minutes using, pre-built Buzzy components. So we can dive into that. So that app exists on this Figma page. It's all in the one file. You can create multiple apps within the one Figma file. Each app has to be on its own unique page, but so this is basically the modified version. I basically duplicated what was on this screen, made some changes, and updated it to my new app. So what we can do here, I'll do a bit of a deep dive into the toolkit, the components, and how we can change a theme. So dark and light themes are available out of the box, but chances are you've got your own brand guidelines and so on that you want to update. So for a start, if you go to the components page in our toolkit, this is the beginnings of a design system. So it's got all these Figma elements pre-designed as Buzzy objects, badges, buttons, and so on, that we can reuse, and the AI uses it to build. So what happens when you build your app in Buzzy? Excuse me 1 second. Sorry. Where was I? So yeah, these are pre-built components in Figma that get reused when Buzzy builds the design. But you can also, when you edit these components here, they will update wherever they are reused within your app design and your screens. So that's basics of how Figma works as a UX design tool. So this toolkit has got these in there, and you can tweak and adjust. Colors are how our theme is primarily designed, and this is a new feature that Figma released a couple of months ago, which is introducing variables and variable modes. So if we wanted to, for instance, I'll jump back into the components because that's got some instructions as well. And so Figma's running a bit slow for me. So for instance, there's examples of the palettes and then how those colors get applied. And these are all defined, I can close this podium for now. These are all defined as variables, which you can access in Figma. So this is basically the color system that's been set up for this toolkit. And we have a dark and a light mode. And then the variables are applied to the components and to objects within Buzzy. Let's go find a button, for instance, or a badge. We look at, say, a badge. We can see the colors that are applied here. These are variables, and you can choose from the variables that we've defined here, and they are reused wherever these components are reused. So that's kind of a background to how variables affect the components and how they affect the design. This is all Figma stuff. Again, if you're not familiar with Figma, a lot of people are. Use it as a marketplace, go find an expert, or learn it yourself. It's a very, very handy tool. Jumping into the variables a bit more, the core colors, so they're defined here as text and background settings and borders, and you can also use things like dimensions. So I've got some predefined container sizes that I reuse in this design. If we need to change the core colors very quickly without having to update all the components individually and readjust the color balance, we can just go into our core colors here and change the colors. You notice our dark and light theme, for instance, they use the same neutral colors. Where they differ is in how they're applied, for instance. So when we look at the neutral colors for the dark theme, the base is set to the darker color and getting progressively lighter through from inverted. The light theme uses lighter colors going to a darker one. So same colors, just switched in the order of how they're applied. We can create a whole new theme by just duplicating one of these. And I've created one called Savory. I'll show you how you can do that. You can just create, either duplicate one of these or create a new one. If we copy the dark theme, we'll duplicate it, and it's given me, at the end, it's appended it, it's copied all the colors. I can very quickly, and so it's a bit tricky because I'm running a smaller interface so it's clearer than I'm used to. I have to zoom around a lot. But if I change this screen to dark 2, nothing's changed because the colors are the same. But if I go in and update my, for instance, just the brand colors, you should see this update pretty quickly. So brand colors, we need the 100. I'll change it to this pink shade. 300. 500. 700. Now, what's important here is that the range, the grades between the lighter and the darker tints, lighter shades, darker tints, are similar. So the 100 is roughly similar to the 100 of the previous color. So the balance ends up kind of the same, but it's very quick to just modify this. And the 900, and you'll see some stuff changing up here. If I zoom out, as Figma will take a minute to adjust. So it's running a bit slow for me at the moment. But you'll see, I might have to refresh this. You'll see things start to change. And the other thing that's important to note, you'll notice my palettes here have updated, my brand colors are now the pink, and so on. Figma takes a while to refresh this stuff sometimes. What I will do is jump over to our app design. Anyway, so that's how you create a whole new thing, and I'll show you how to apply that. Apologies for my slow computer. So this is the app design. I can close this. Where I had my theme set to dark before, I can go on top of that and I'll move it to Savory. So this is the one I defined earlier, which for a recipe app, I've changed the neutrals to a warmer gray and the brand colors bright orange, going a warm color. So this is now ready to publish. It basically defined my theme, applied it. The other interesting thing though with themes is you can apply these collections of variables either at the whole canvas level. So here I've just applied it to everything and it applies to all the screens and will cascade down. Or I could create a new theme or apply a different theme to just a selection of screens. So I could take all my login screens here. Under the layer selection, there's our little variables toggle, and I can make these use just the normal dark theme. So what this lets you do is you can break your app up into separate themes. You could have an admin section that's using one theme and use a completely different color palette for your end users, or consumer section, and so on. If I republish this, again, this will take a minute while it rebuilds the screens for us. While we wait for that to go, I might as well show you the minimum and max settings. So here's our home screen. If I resize this in Figma, our menu items now float and resize themselves. And the way this works is Figma's introduced minimum and maximum widths and wrapping to auto layout. So if I drill down to where this menu lives in our layers, they're wrapped in a column, which is a Figma auto layout. Again, if you're unfamiliar with Figma, don't worry about it. Find someone who can help you or learn it. It's pretty simple. So an auto layout is a type of frame that uses, I guess, the closest approximation is it uses flex rendering from HTML and CSS to organize its contents. So this auto layout, for instance, has been set to wrap, and within it, the individual menu items have got minimum, and that's these card tiles, they've got minimum and maximum widths defined. So when they get shrunk down to 240, they won't resize anymore, and the container knows I can't shrink these anymore, I need to wrap them. So that's how this works. So if I jump back into the container, this auto layout, I could set a direction vertical. So this is now trying to flow them all vertically. I could set it horizontally, creating a row, and I can set it to wrap. If I do this horizontally while I resize down, you see how it's not wrapping, it's just going to sort of break out the bounds of its container. But if I set it to wrap, and if I just jump into, that's the column here. If I turn wrapping on, you'll notice this icon here's changed. Figma now knows to wrap. And Buzzy, when we publish this file, Buzzy respects those settings as well. So that's a great way to get responsive out of the box. And it's very easy to adjust when and where you need it. I'll show you how to do it in the recipe details page in a second. But if we jump over back to our app, this is the new one. If we dive into here, it's using the new theme. So again, I just quickly created some new color variables, hit publish, and our app has now got this theme applied. So let's take it down another level of detail. So looking at recipe here, there's some more changes I'd like to make to this screen. For instance, these ingredients and instructions, there's room to render them next to each other on a larger screen, so we should probably do that. I'm also not a fan with, you can't see them here, but if I add a review and give it a rating and hit submit, I'm not a fan with how that review gets presented. Again, this is just generated out of the box by the AI. It's just used a card object and presented the reviews that way. That's what the AI has decided to do. It's not what I think is best for my app, so I'm going to go and change that. So I'll show you how quickly we can do this. If I jump back into here, there's my recipe detail screen, which is the one we were just looking at. There's my ingredients. If you learn Figma and Buzzy, you'll learn more about how the plugin works. But if you look down at these elements here and go to the design screen in the plugin, the design tab, you'll see that this value here has been assigned the ingredients field from the data table that we have, from the recipe data table, and so on. So that's how Figma and Buzzy interact. Buzzy will add these settings via the plugin to the Figma file. When we publish, Buzzy knows that that's got to be populated with the ingredients list from this particular recipe and so on. So these things live here. There's two. There's instructions and recipe. ingredients and instructions, and I want these to be horizontal next to each other when the screen's wide enough. So to start with, let's widen our screen. I'm using those pre-built variables I've got for container sizes. So if I make this 960, you see Figma's resized it for me. And there's my two objects, the ingredients, there we go, ingredients and instructions. What I want to do to make these wrap is I need to put them in a container. So I can frame that selection. So use the right click, or you can use keyboard commands. What I really want to do though, you can frame it and then make it an auto layout, or you can just automatically make it an auto layout. So if I just go Shift A or add auto layout, it's now wrapped these, see, in a frame which is an auto layout over here. As this is an auto layout, you'll notice I can now reflow these. So it went from a vertical to a horizontal straight, and that's step one. We've already got them next to each other. But what I want to do is I want to make these responsive so that they don't just collapse down to crazy, a crazy width when my screen is smaller. I don't want them to, I want them to wrap at this point, but render next to each other at this point. I'll just resize this back. So what I need to do is I've got step one, I've got my auto layout wrapping them. There we go, I've set it to wrap. These are that controls the spacing there. Let's put a 24 pixel space between them, and vertically it will do the same when they wrap. I need to select both of these. What I want to do is make sure that they're set to fill, which means they'll both take up as much space as they can within this container. So they'll split it evenly between them. The height is set to hug, so they'll take up as much vertical room as they need, depending on what the content is. And what I need to make sure now, though, is I want to set a max width on both of these, sorry, a min width, so that they don't, once they hit a certain size, they won't shrink anymore. So I'm going to add a min width, and I'll apply a variable here, and I'm going to add 320. So when these each of these gets to 320 pixels wide, they won't be allowed to shrink anymore, and they will wrap. So if I update just this screen, if I go to my Publish tab, quick tip is rather than updating the whole app, if you're working on a particular screen, while anything within that screen is selected, you get the option to update the current screen only. So if I hit update current screen, it should be a quick post. There we go, that was very quick. So now if I come back to here and hit refresh, open the recipe, there's our ingredients and instructions next to each other. As I resize my window, there we go, they hit their minimum threshold there, and now they wrap. So that's how easy it is to add responsive behavior where and when you need it. Straight from Figma, no coding required, and I republished my live app in a matter of seconds. The next thing we'll do is I might go.
Okay, just a time check, by the way.
How are we going?
Sort of 9 minutes till the top of the hour.
Okay. I'll race through this. So to change a component completely, if I go into my review section here, you'll notice that the AI's used the card stacked component. I don't think that's a great layout for this item, so I'm going to swap the component for something we have called a notification. If I search for that, there it is. And you'll notice that's just swapped that component out for me. And what I need to do now is I need to go through and make sure that it's rendering the data that we had. I don't need the badge mini, but I will render this stuff. So I can turn layers on and off in that component. So this thing, the name or source, go to the design tab, we're going to make this a field, and it's going to refer to our review submitter. The date time over here, we can make it a field. It's going to refer to our review submitted time. This action thing can just be added review, it could be hard code, or we could make it dynamic. The message is going to be our review content. So select our comment. This needs to be in summary mode. And what we might enable also is we need to show the ratings. So I'll show this bit down here. These are placeholder slots in our component. I only need one of them, so I'm going to hide the other two. And this one, if I select that, I'm going to swap this component for a ratings. Rating stars, there it is. So that's brought in the rating stars component, and I can make it enabled, and I can give it a predetermined value. This is just for me to see what it looks like in Figma. There it is. I need to make sure that my notification is assigned as the repeating element. So it will render multiples of that within that area. And now we're going to update the current screen. So I've swapped out what was the card component with a notification component, which is a better way of rendering reviews. If I go to my screen, I'll hit refresh. It'll bring me back to the new page. There we go. I'll open the same one because we had a review there. And there's my review. I think I need to bring in just 1 second. I brought it in, I forgot to define it. So that is rating stars. This needs to be defined as a field, and it is the actual rating. And it can be in summary mode, publish, update current screen. That'll bring the rating in. And as soon as that's done, bingo, hit refresh. Oops. There it is. So there's my rating. If I add another one, again, 5-star rating, submit. There it is. There's my new review. So I've just very quickly changed the entire section or menu of how things render in our design. So that's basically me.
Awesome. So, and I think, like, I'm just looking at some of the questions in that are coming through. So I think just to be clear on that, this part of the presentation assumes that you understand Figma, and there's a lot of people out there that do have very good Figma skills and understand how to do that. They might have existing Figma files and things. So as I mentioned before, our goal is to use AI, and we'll just get closer and closer to needing less and less of Figma to do it. But you always want a tool like Figma that gives you that high fidelity way to get control of every little pixel on the screen. And that's what it's there for. We don't want to reinvent that wheel. It's not something that we want to do. We want to allow people to, get as far up the mountain as they can, just using the artificial intelligence, and then the no-code platform. You can come in and configure things. And then if you need to, you can then go into Figma if you need to make design changes, or you can go into code if you need to make custom code widgets, either at the front end or at the server end. So that's really our I guess thesis in terms of what's going to help you speed up your application development, and that. So it's a really good question, and it's something that, as I mentioned before, we're trying to get the AI and the no-code platform to get you as far up to the top of the mountain. Some mountains are pretty small that people are trying to do, and you can do everything without getting into Figma. Other applications that you're trying to build, we might get you close to the top, but you might need to bring in somebody who's got those Figma skills. So at the end of your publishing process, think of it that there are 2 doors. The door on the left is I'm going to go into learn how to use Buzzy and Figma. There is a getting started guide. There are 6 lessons in that getting started guide. The combined time of all those 6 lessons to get you to a basic level is about an hour. So if you want to go the door on the left and learn it, please go and do that getting started guide, and it'll show you how to create an application from an empty Figma file to something that's a basic create, read, update, delete, CRUD app in that time. Obviously, there's more sophisticated capabilities in Figma that are going to take you a bit more time and effort and Buzzy. So that's the door on the left. The door on the right is the Buzzy marketplace. There are a lot of freelancers and agencies out there that have good Buzzy and Figma skills. So to get Buzzy accredited, you need to have completed the accreditation, which is in Figma. So they're there to help you if you don't have the time or the skills to be able to want to do, or time to invest in those skills. You can go to the marketplace and find a Buzzy partner. Obviously, if you want to become a Buzzy partner, we'd love to have you on board. That's an option for you. If you've got good Figma skills and you want to, this Buzzy's new to you, we'd love to have you out there and connect you with potential customers.
Sounds good. And to add to that, if you are ever confused about what to do or what options you have, feel free to send us an email at support@buzzy.biz, and we'd be happy to kind of guide you into the right direction.
Yeah, and I was going to say, try the Buzzy Assistant first and give us some feedback. Yeah, so we want to make that as seamless without having to come to the support desk, and which might take a bit of time to get you an answer.
In short, Buzzy is backwards compatible. So the previous version where you define things, where you need a container layer and you define it within the Buzzy plugin as being responsive or wrapping, that'll still work. Obviously, doing it directly from Figma is a lot easier, and it means you don't need to nest things in as many container layers. But yes, backwards compatible, it will keep working. Yes. So using Buzzy AI to generate your app from scratch is one way of using Buzzy. If you've got your own design and are already working in Figma, you've already got some design screens mocked up in Figma, you can go and run the Buzzy plugin, generate a data model using the Buzzy AI. That's already getting you partway up that mountain, and then start marking up your own design with Buzzy tags and publishing that as an app. So you don't need to start from the Buzzy toolkit. You can have your own design system, create your screens yourself, design them how you want to design them, and use Buzzy plugin to mark those up and create a working app directly from your own Figma designs. And that was the traditional way of using Buzzy before the AI assistant came along.
In terms of using Buzzy in different languages, I would say that the app generation is definitely, it handles English. However, you can chat with the AI chat in different languages, and it should be able to understand you, but it will produce something in English that makes sense. But you can try. I would definitely recommend experimenting. And I think, Adam, you tried with like Turkish the other day, and that seemed to give you some sort of results. So definitely try it. But I will have a look at my emails to see if I got your email in French. And I should be able to help you with that.
Yeah, just email support@buzzy.buzz.
Yes.
Provided it doesn't caught in spam or something. But so it's a good question. There's for you to use. Literally, there's tens and tens of thousands of lines of code that sit on the Buzzy on the server. And if you're doing a native application, we generate for that native application. For us, that's taken years and years. We have a development team that works constantly on that, and we enhance and maintain that code. So for that, that's one of the key reasons we don't want to give you that code. It just would not be maintainable. So in my past life, I was a founder of a company. We sold to IBM. I was a product manager. I dealt with no code, low code, deep code stuff. When we did code generation, it always ended up in a nightmare when we gave that code to the customer, because you find a bug in it, you tell us, we fix it, we give you another 10,000 or 20,000 lines of code. You're going, what am I going to do with this? So yes, you are tied to the Buzzy platform while you're using it. We just think that if this includes, so the Buzzy deployments include the hosting cost, and that's really how we make our money. It's not going to be much different, if probably even cheaper to use Buzzy than going to host it yourself, because every application that we build is both web and native, or if you optionally go native, and they're integrated. So it's running as a full single stack on your own database cluster, on your own compute, on your own with your own storage, that can be scaled independently based on your requirements. So you're really paying for the infrastructure, and the code, and that comes almost for free in a sense. So we think it's so cost effective. We understand that's not for everybody. So there is a way out. Because we generate a Figma file, there are tools out there that will take a Figma file and give you source code. They will suffer from those issues that I mentioned before in terms of, you've generated thousands of lines of code and then trying to merge it in with the changes and you forked it and good luck to you. It's pretty hard. I know this from firsthand experience. So I think there is a way that you can take your Figma file that Buzzy creates and generates source code. You'll probably still have to code the server and some of the business logic and that, depending on those platforms. So there are other tools out there that will get you from Figma to code, that we produce the Figma file for you. So it's not a complete closed door, but again, we just think that the way that we can make it so cost effective that you use the Buzzy platform, that it's a non-brainer. So we understand that's not for everybody. We just find that we think that that's the way the market will go, because that problem of maintaining tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of lines of code is just not cost effective for proprietary or company development teams to do. We know that code and love it and want to make it the best as possible for you guys. So hopefully that gives you, Omar, you had a question. So cool. The t-shirt, you want the t-shirts? Yeah, we did these for South by Southwest in Sydney about a month ago. So we don't have them for sale. We'll get you one, Andrew. Just reach out to us.
Send an email to Adam.
Yeah.
You want? Yeah, the short answer is yes. It's on our YouTube channel, and I think Steph, you'll email it out to people as well.
Yes, for sure. So you'll receive an email in a few days with a link to the recording of this webinar, and on our YouTube channel there should be the recording of the previous webinar as well, and we just post everything in there. So feel free to go check that out.
So I think, yeah, just to kind of remind what I said before, think of it, you get to the first version of your app in a few minutes. There's two doors. The door on the left is you want to learn how to use Buzzy, which includes Figma yourself. And again, I said we'll keep adding more and more functionality so you don't have to do that. And that course, that Getting Started guide, is about an hour's worth of course time for 6 lessons. I highly recommend that you go and do that if you're going to take that door on the left. Or the door on the right is marketplace.buzzy.buzz. Go and find a freelancer or an agency to help you along the way. The other one, which supports both of those, is we have a Buzzy coach, which is one of our partners. And it's a great way to get started and help you define everything from, your prompts and your application and all the way through to, Figma or coding bits and pieces. So they can give you guidance on that. So yeah, please, yeah. 2 doors, simple. You need you can start in Figma if you've got your own Figma file and you're going to build things up from scratch without a paid subscription. To be able to take the AI and generate a Figma file, so that step in between your working app and the Figma file, you will need a paid subscription to that. But there's some very special deals that are on the go at the moment that I'd highly recommend that because they'll disappear within the next week or so around the Black Friday offers. So
correct. Yeah, Peter. So if you're using the app if you're just using the creator license and that, then that will persist on the app.buzzy company. But if you've gone and paid for a deployment, which costs us money to run that deployment with the infrastructure, the database cluster, and the compute and that, if you stop the subscription on that deployment, we have to take that down for obvious reasons. We can't just keep us costing money for no reward. So again, if you just building applications on the app.buzzy company, we don't take that down. That infrastructure is there, and so after your subscription ends, you can still access that application over there. But that's not your own deployment running. So as soon as you go to the deployment plan, you're running your own stuff. When your subscription ends, yeah, we need to take that down. Hopefully that makes sense. Why we'd have to do that.
How about if you start the subscription again?
Look, reach out to us. the issue is we need to work out what to do with that database. We have done this for customers in the past where they've had to like pause things for a few months as they get funding and that. So just reach out to support and we'll try to be as flexible as we can. But you know, obviously, again, we need to just so we can shut down that server and we can put, you know, we often do it for like put it into a hibernation mode, probably for a small fee, because we get charged for that as well. So yeah, again, we want to help you. If we understand that starting a business and that is hard, so we'll try to be as flexible as possible to help you get to your goals.
Awesome. Thanks for answering all the questions. That's probably all we have time for today. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Make sure to follow Buzzy on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also join our Discord server to stay up to date with all our events and news. Yes, Adam?
I was going to say, we do have some very special deals for are we going to cover that, Steph?
Yes, of course.
I'll shut up.
That's good. Yeah, we'll be announcing, you know, any special news, special deals on next Buzzy webinars as well very soon. So keep an eye on your inbox and on our social media. Before I get into the special offers, I'd like to say a big thank you to our incredible special guest speakers, Adam and Dave. Give it for the guest speakers. Yay.
And thanks for joining.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steph.
No worries. So just before you go, a few links that I will be sharing with everyone as well after the webinar. So that's just a few more information about what we covered today. So the Buzzy Assistant. And if you'd like to give us some feedback, some suggestions, recommendations, we are all ears. So we'll send those links again after the webinars. But yeah, one last thing. Black Friday is just around the corner, so we do have some special deals for you. If you're looking to upgrade Buzzy, get access to all the premium features that we've shown you today, you could save up to 85%. So feel free to go check out all the Black Friday offers at buzzy.buzz/special-offer. We'll also send that link afterwards, but it is buzzy.buzz/special-offers. These offers will only be available for a limited time. So if you're interested, make sure to get them before they go away. Awesome. Yeah, again, thank you to everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day. We had a good time. We hope that you did as well. And we will see you next time.
Thanks all. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.